Hello, you guys!
You know what sucks?
When you finally have set aside some time to enjoy a day in the water and your boat just won't crank.
You know what sucks more?
The fact that if you spend enough time boating, that's definitely gonna happen to you.
Yep.
But never fear, because you were smart enough to click on this video, and we are going to give you some tips that more often than not will be able to help you get back up and running so you can enjoy your time on the water.
8 out of 10 times. It's just a good thing this isn't keeping up flying with the Joneses, because ain't nobody wants to break an airplane in mid-flight.
Okay, so first I'm going to briefly go over the 3 most common, easiest, quickest, but most easily forgotten, especially by new boaters, ways to troubleshoot why your boat won't crank. And then after that, Brandon's gonna head back to the motor, the battery, tell you guys some more kind of in-depth troubleshooting tips that you can definitely do yourself, so you will be good to go. Okay, tip number 1, does your boat have gas? I'm not trying to insult anyone's intelligence, I promise I'm not. You would be surprised in all seriousness how often it happens, because sometimes the most obvious things are also the easiest to forget, so no judgment. Number 2, is your throttle in neutral? Boats, of course, do not have a park on the gear shift. They simply have forward, neutral, and reverse, and it has to be in neutral to crank. So as you can see, I'm going to put it in forward, not in neutral. It doesn't even try and turn over. Switch it back into neutral. Good to go. Just wiggle your throttle and make sure that it's in neutral so you can move on to number 3, which is your kill switch fully engaged? A kill switch, for anybody that might not be familiar, is a pin with a little cord that's supposed to attach to the driver so that if for any crazy reason the driver gets ejected from the boat, the motor will shut off. So naturally, the motor will not crank if the kill switch is not fully engaged. Sometimes you bump it and you didn't even realize it. Sometimes your kids think it's fun to play with the little stretchy cord. Whatever the case may be, just check to make sure that it's fully pushed in. All 3 of those things will take you like less than 5 seconds in total. They are no big deal, but sometimes they are the things that people just forget to check because they're expecting something crazy going on with the motor. So once you are positive that your boat has gas in it, that your throttle is in neutral, and that your kill switch is fully engaged, you're probably going to need to head to your motor or battery because it's most likely going to be an issue in one of those 2 places.
Alright, so say you're running down the lake, your boat starts running like crap, it's not running good, and you can't figure out the problem and you can't get to a mechanic. A lot of these newer boats have this diffuser in the front, and this collects water in it. And once this thing fills up with water, it's done. The boat will run, but it isn't going to run right. This thing right here, you'll actually take these 3 screws out, drain the water out of this, and the boat will run perfect. Water is always an issue. You're always going to have water getting in your fuel, and everybody blames the marina, but it just happens, especially if your tank's half full. It'll sit there and sweat and make its own water. If it's completely full, you won't sweat at all, and if it's completely empty, you're good to go. So what we do in the middle of the fuel line is I add a water separator, okay? This is also a fuel filter. All you do is run your fuel line in it and run it out of it. And the cool trick to this is where you drain the water. Anytime you get water in your fuel, it's going to be heavier than your fuel. It fills this glass bowl up. I turn this right here, water just pours out of it. When I see the gas coming down, I tighten it back up, pump my bowl, bam, all my water's out of my fuel. If you ever get water in your motor, it's not going to run right, and not all motors have a way to get the water out. This will stop it from ever getting in there as long as you check it routinely. Alright, not everybody's got the luxury of owning a key to their boat. It starts at, some people have these things. This is Sarah's boat.
What are you trying to say?
I'm saying that
I'm not luxurious?
You bougie. Alright, so all these outboards are different. I've got it on start right now. And let's say I pull this motor and I'm going to try to crank it. Three pulls to get it going, right? I put it on slow, it's definitely not going to crank. But every motor has a sweet spot. This one's sweet spot's a little past the start. So sometimes you just need to find your sweet spot. And you can crank it up right off the bat. A lot of times, if I can't get one of these things to crank, I do what all mechanics tell you not to do, and I use this special liquid called starter fluid. And you spray it right in this right here. This is where the air intake is. All boats have an air intake that goes into the carburetor or the fuel injected part. But either way, you spray a little starter fluid in there and pull it. If it doesn't start, you've lost fire. And when you lose fire, that's when it's time to figure out if your spark plug's not working, your kill switch isn't working. But if you spray starter fluid in there and it don't fire up, something's wrong with the ignition. So, time to check your spark plug. It's probably fouled out. Check your kill switch. It might not be working. There's no telling. But
here's just an additional example because the air intake might look different on different motors. On this one, it's these 6 holes right here. So that's where you would spray your starter fluid on this one. But just check, look up your motor, and you can figure out exactly where your air intake is, and that's exactly where you'll spray the fluid.
starter fluid's the best way to go to the second part of trying to be a mechanic on your own boat. Because if it don't start with starter fluid, you don't have fire.
Hi, Bear! What are you doing?
Alright guys, so just remember those little tricks we taught you. Those little tricks, a lot of times, will save you hundreds of dollars, if not thousands.
If by some chance you missed part 1 or 2 of this series, we will link them right here. Otherwise, we wish you guys a super safe and enjoyable boating experience.
Happy 4th of July!
Bye!
Bye!